As a drift hunter, you're not merely an elite vigilante. You are a warrior, and a seeker of both fortune and glory. Your journey will take you across the vast expanse of the cosmos where danger and opportunity lie in equal measure. The details of your mission can include anything from tracking down elusive fugitives to completing contracts for powerful corporations or underground rebellions that require your specific set of skills. These contracts can be lucrative, and you're certain to make a few enemies along the way. So assemble your crew, engage your warp drive, and prepare to discover your destiny among the stars in Terminus Frontier. Terminus Frontier is a cooperative sci-fi campaign game for 1 to 4 players featuring tactical squad combat missions, narrative choices, and open-world space exploration. Taking 1 to 3 hours of playtime per session, it's jam-packed with mechanisms ranging from storytelling to hand management, and from variable player powers to deck building and card play conflict resolution. The base game comes with 4 drift hunters. Vanguard, an exiled commander that brings a balanced range and melee style, but is also able to give the squad bonus actions. Maverick, a dual-wielding gunfighter that can deal high damage at close range. Zealot, an aggressive melee brawler with considerable defensive capabilities. And Operative, a long-range sniper that can provide covering fire and battlefield control from a distance. Terminus Frontier is meant to be played as a legacy campaign over multiple sessions as your story develops and characters advance, and there is also a one-shot mode. This preview focuses primarily on the scenario combat mechanics. For details on the campaign mode, check out the Kickstarter campaign where this will be detailed further. The game is played over several rounds determined by the scenario, and each round is divided into 4 phases. In the squad formation phase, players will plan out their activation order together for the round. The role each player chooses will determine their initiative order, the number of actions their drift hunter will be able to perform, and how threatening they will appear to the enemy combatants, which will also determine how much resolve the drift hunter will accrue for the threat taken. During the enemy AI phase, an enemy AI card is revealed and read for the round, which determines the enemy's initiative order and how the enemies will act during their activation. Within the action phase, drift hunters and enemies alike will take their turns in initiative order. There are several standard actions in the game that can be performed by simply discarding a card from your hand and spending 1 action point regardless of what cards you have in your hand. Doing so will allow you to perform a move action using your drift hunter's movement value, a shoot or melee action using their weapon's basic characteristics, an aim action of 2 cards where you draw 2 cards from the chosen weapon's ammo deck and put any number of them under its draw deck, a reload action on the weapon of your choice, or an order action giving you the ability to usher ally colonists out of harm's way. While standard actions can get the job done, your drift hunter's skill cards are the lifeblood of efficiency and effectiveness in the fight. They will often combine 2 or more standard actions, possibly giving the action a bonus effect, with some even increasing what you can do during the action. Additionally, the use of skill cards can also raise your threat level in the enemy's eyes, so be careful. For this sequence, we'll assume that Vanguard has chosen the primary gunner's squad role, which gives him 3 action points for the round and raises his threat level by 2. So let's look at some examples of Vanguard skill cards and explain how a turn might play out during a game. Light 'em Up allows Vanguard to spend 2 action points to make a shooting attack, move, then make another shooting attack. It will also raise his threat level by 1, but it's allowing him to take 3 actions for the AP cost of just 2. Let's say that he will perform a pulse action first. If we look at his M42 Redeemer, it has a range of 1 to 7 spaces and says that a pulse shot is made by revealing 1 card from the weapon's ammo deck. The card drawn does 1 damage, which is tallied on the enemy's board. Now, Vanguard can make a movement action using his movement value of 3. When moving, Players and enemies can move either orthogonally or diagonally. And finally, Vanguard can make another shooting attack. This time, however, he decides to go full auto and spend his boost token, drawing 3 cards for damage and discarding 2 more, representing wasted ammo. He reveals 6 more damage, plus 1 from the boost token, causing 7 damage altogether, finishing off the Scrapper Raider. Vanguard then chooses to play Give 'em Hell, which allows him to make a command action for 0 action point cost. He chooses the operative to be his target, giving her a boost token that she can utilize on her turn. Realizing his M42 Redeemer's ammo deck is down to just 1 card, and he discarded a couple of high damage cards for wasted ammo, Vanguard chooses to discard his full auto card and spend his final action point to reload. To do so, he simply reshuffles the discard pile back into the remaining draw pile. Taking a look at some other possibilities in Vanguard's skill card deck, Lethal Strike says that for 0 action points he can move up to 2 spaces and perform a melee combat strike with his sword that ignores cover. Get Moving says that for 0 action points he can command an ally within 8 range to take a movement action using their movement value, and they could also discard a suppression card, thus freeing up their hand a bit more for their turn. First Aid says that for 1 action point, he can heal up to 3 hit points of damage on his or an adjacent ally's board. And finally, there are also some cards in your skill deck that can be played outside of your turn as a reaction. Get Down allows Vanguard to prevent 2 damage of an incoming attack on an ally within a range of 8. As we saw in the previous sequence, line of sight, weapon range, and cover are considerations that must be made during a player's turn that includes combat actions. To determine line of sight, trace a line from the center of the attacker's space to the center of the target's space. If the line crosses a building or goes across an edge of the map, it is considered blocked. Units, however, do not block line of sight. When determining range, spaces can be counted both orthogonally and diagonally, with diagonal spaces counted first. When a unit is standing adjacent to a terrain object, they may benefit from cover from an incoming attack if the line of sight intersects the terrain object. Cover halves the incoming damage, rounding down. But before we talk more about taking damage from attacks, let's take a closer look at how the enemy's AI determines what they will do during their turn and how they will attack the Drift Hunters. We'll use the Scrapper Raiders from the game's first scenario for this explanation. The first enemy AI card is Seize the Initiative, which tells us that the Scrapper Raiders will take Initiative 8 and will perform rifle attacks after taking cover on their turn. When it reaches the enemy's activation during the action phase, all the enemies will activate in numerical order according to what the AI card says is their target. In this case, whomever is the highest threat. This means that they will take cover from and attack whomever the highest threat is in proximity to where they are located. Looking at the Scrapper Raiders profile card, we see that they will be drawing a card from the Light Fire deck to determine how much damage they will inflict and to which area of the Drift Hunter's body. In this example, the Drift Hunter would take 1 damage to the chest area. When you must take damage, you simply move your damage token to the right on your player board in the appropriate body area. When the token reaches 0, that body area is considered broken, and you must also draw either a minor or severe trauma card. Minor trauma cards are drawn when the head, hand, or leg areas are broken. Severe trauma cards are drawn when the chest area is broken and will usually take you out for the rest of the scenario. Trauma cards can have ongoing, persistent, and immediate effects. Immediate trauma cards must be resolved when they are drawn and are then discarded. Persistent trauma cards are added to the top of your skill cards deck will have various negative effects when played from your hand and clog up your hand until you play them. Ongoing trauma cards are both resolved immediately and then played into your tableau for an ongoing effect. In some cases, the negative effects of your trauma cards can be nullified or lessened by expending resolve points. When all Drift Hunters and enemies have completed their activations, the end phase will consist of triggering the event card from the enemy AI deck and reading the appropriate entry in the scenario book. Players will then have the option of discarding cards from their hand and drawing back up to their hand limit. And then the squad leader token is passed to the next player in clockwise order. This process continues until the victory or failure conditions of the scenario are met within the number of rounds determined by the scenario, or until all the Drift Hunters have been defeated. Now, realizing that I've not detailed every bit of minutia in the game, Terminus Frontier boasts a wealth of different kinds of scenarios within its capabilities. From seek and destroy missions to boss battlers, and from stealth missions to a robust solo mode and variable difficulties, Terminus Frontier could very well have what it takes to scratch that sci-fi scenario-driven adventure campaign that you've been looking to itch. With each Drift Hunter's variable player powers and their signature skills, coupled with the ability to level up their skills and weapons through deck construction over the course of the campaign, each player will feel very much like an individual in the game and not just another player. So if anything I've shared with you today here piques your interest, I'm sure the fine people at Forgeborn Games will appreciate your checking out their campaign using the links in the description below to see what they have to offer you. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.